This important announcement. If you have ever taken prescriptions like Adderall and are concerned about the side effects and high cost, now there's a new all-natural smart pill available that's the closest thing to a safe, real-life, limitless pill. It's so powerful and effective that students, athletes, and execs all want to get their hands on it. It's called Limitless, a Coastline product, and it's truly remarkable. It can help skyrocket your concentration, improve your creative thinking, enhance your memory, and make you feel like a better version of yourself. Call and find out how to get a free bottle of Limitless and experience this firsthand. It's not a question of whether this powerful pill works, but how great it can make you feel. Take it and watch it go to work. Limitless may be the best kept secret available today.
To find out how to get a free bottle of Limitless, call 800-605-1708, 800-605-1708. Free bottles for a limited time. Call now, 800-605-1708, 800-605-1708.
Shots fired at a plasma center in Michigan, where one of the responding officers is wounded.
Officials with the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety say the officer's wounds are not life-threatening. The officer did respond this morning to a report of shots fired. An employee of the plasma center told the Kalamazoo Gazette newspaper that the gunman was a former employee who came in and started firing. The witness also said the gunman told them to call 911. There has been no confirmation on if the wounded officer returned fire or if the gunman was injured or in custody. Public safety will only say right now that there is no active threat to the public. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Britain's parliament votes again at this hour on the Prime Minister's blueprint for divorcing the European Union, which suffered a resounding loss earlier this year. Opponents say recent changes aren't enough.
Almost like Groundhog's Day, but pretty bad for UK Prime Minister Theresa May. It looks like she will go down to another defeat in the House of Commons. It is a vote on her New Deal. She's been tweaking it for the last couple of days to have Britain exit the European Union or Brexit. Analysts say they'll probably vote it down. Remember, back in January, 230 votes against. Our sister network Sky News, it's saying at least 100 votes will defeat it. And the deadline for the UK to leave the European Union is March 29th.
Fox's Greg Palcott in London. If the plan does not pass, a vote is expected tomorrow on a no-deal exit. The Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido is now under investigation, accused of sabotaging the country's power grid. Venezuela's chief prosecutor making this move. He remains loyal to the disputed president, Nicolas Maduro. Guaido, the self-proclaimed interim president, blames corruption and mismanagement for nearly a week of national blackouts. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. There was a fatal accident this morning west of Fort Dodge. Iowa State Patrol Trooper Paul Gardner has some details.
6:45 this morning, we were dispatched to a two-vehicle accident on Highway 7 right around the Cargill industrial plant west of Fort Dodge. Westbound van had crossed the center line and went head-on with a school bus that was out of Manson Northwest Webster School District. Both of them ended up on the north shoulder of the roadway. The driver of the van was dead on impact, and the driver of the school bus was injured and taken to Unity Point and life-flighted to Des Moines.
Gardner says there were no children on the school bus. Iowa State Patrol is currently investigating the cause of the accident, but Gardner says it appears the van crossed the center line into the path of the school bus. Highway 7 was closed for several hours and reopened at around 10 a.m. The names of those involved in the crash have not been released. The Iowa Senate has passed a bill to expand free speech protections at the state's community colleges and public universities. Republican Senator Amy Sinclair Vallerton says students should be allowed to join any campus group they want without the threat of discrimination.
But it is also not our place to tell a Christian group, a Muslim group, an LGBTQ group, or any other belief-based organization that they must be led by people who do not affirm the very beliefs on which the group was founded.
The bill is the legislature's response after a student group called Business Leaders in Christ was kicked off the University of Iowa campus for blocking an openly gay member from its leadership. Senator Zach Walz, a Democrat from Coralville, says some people could be denied leadership opportunities on campus if the bill becomes law.
This is nothing about a person's religious beliefs. This is a question about people who have an identity or belong to a group that has historically been marginalized. Those students are being denied. They're being denied because of who they are.
The bill passed the Senate on a 35-11 vote. It now goes to the House for consideration. At Monday's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, the council passed the first reading of Ordinance 2298 that states that all firework tents in Fort Dodge must be at least 100 feet from all structures. The first measure passed 5-2 with council members Dave Flattery, Nevin Conrad, Kim Allstott, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voting yes. Council members Jeffrey Halter and Lydia Scher voted no. Councilmember Allstott explained why he's in favor of the measure.
I think the 100-foot would work fine with that because there's only two places that would affect. It's the tent that was by the community tap. That's what we're really concerned about. That's why we were talking about this in the first place. They're only 20 foot away from existing homes, and we felt that was way too close. That's why we had this rating. That's why we wanted to change it to 100 foot.
Councilmember Halter expressed why he's against the ordinance.
I will not support that, as the fireworks industry itself that builds these things says that you should be a minimum of 150 feet up to 100 yards. So I just don't see a difference in what we have now and low capacity.
Fireworks ordinance has to pass 2 more times before it gets enacted. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with scattered rain showers likely. Highs level off around 40. Winds out of the south 10 to 20 miles per hour. Overcast again tonight. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Lows dip down to about 38. Scattered thunderstorms again tomorrow. Highs around 51. A dusting of snow Thursday night. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 37.
Don't get fouled by high prices on your next vehicle. Head for Humboldt Motor Sales and score big with over $10,000 off the GMC Sierra half-ton Crew. Take $9,000 off the GMC Acadia. Get a slam dunk with 11% off Silverado HDs and 21% off the Chevy Equinox. Traveling is great in the 2019 Buick Encore, and it's just $19,700 now. You're always in a winning bracket at Humboldt Motor Sales. Online at HumboldtGM.com.
When you were a teenager, your garage was the beginning of your rock and roll dreams. Later on, your garage was a place to store whatever didn't fit in the house. Then you got the car of your dreams. And that's not staying outside at night, no sir. That's where we come in.
P&R Entry Doors is your one-stop source for installation and repairs. As an official Midland garage door dealer, we have everything you need for any size garage in any situation. PNREntryDoors.com.
The bakers of Country Hearth and Village Hearth Breads are proud to support local education with Loaves for Learning, the program that makes it easy to earn money for your school. Enjoy Country Hearth and Village Hearth all-natural breads, buns, bagels, and more. Then save the UPC from the package for your school to collect and redeem. Each is worth 5 cents and can be used for books, computers, sports, music, whatever your school needs. Up to $10,000 a year. Learn more at loavesforlearning.com. Country Hearth and Village Hearth Breads, baking our best for you.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Before we got married, my mother asked me if my wife was going to convert to Catholicism. You're right to laugh. It's a stupid question. I don't know, Mom. Let me go ask. Let me go see if a 29-year-old Jewish woman who doesn't like any of my suggestions would convert to, what was it again? Roman Catholicism? How would I even have that conversation? What, do you come home with a brochure and you're like, hey, honey, allow me to tell you about an exciting, not new organization. Don't Google us. You know that strange look of shame and unhappiness I have in my eyes at all times, especially after sex, and it was all forced on me at birth? What if you voluntarily signed up for it?
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. Here we are, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. All right. We're having a lot of rain out there. I hope we don't. We probably will get some minor flooding anyway. Excuse me. David Ferrick is here. Hi, David.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
It's okay. I think I got to get my inhaler out, but
yeah,
we're going to be okay here. So, David Ferrick is city manager of Fort Dodge, in case you didn't know. And I understand that this is a regional show in some respects. So, not everyone may know who David Ferrick is, but in Fort Dodge, he's big. He's huge. A huge guy.
You're just talking about my physical stats.
Well,
right
yeah,
now.
that's right. He's a pretty. How tall are you? 6'5", 6'6"?
No, I may have been 6'5", or that might have been a program height. I don't know, somewhere between 6'4" and 6'5", but I've lost a little bit now. 50 years later, you kind of shrink some.
Oh, tell me about it. When I got out of the service, they measured me somehow, and I was 6'2" .25".
Yeah.
Now I'm like 6'1.5", maybe, probably closer to 6'1". Just kind of well, of course, I put on 70 pounds.
Yeah, your assisting gravity.
Yes, you're right. kind of went that way. Yeah. There was a city council meeting last night. Believe it or not, I really don't care to talk about fireworks today. I mean, they have apparently decided. The council people apparently decided what they're going to do. It's not as bad as I thought it was originally going to be, but
it's really not a big deal. It's just saying that tents have to be 100 feet away from any structure.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, it also says they can't be on Fifth Avenue South.
Well, that's always been that way. They weren't allowed to Fifth Avenue South last year because of the corridor overlay zoning requirement.
And the corridor overlay, does that include downtown then, or
no? It's the corridor. It's
just
corridor. There are some regulations downtown that they may or may not impact tents, but the corridor has special rules related to outdoor sales and outdoor display that basically makes it very difficult if your property is within the corridor overlay or a property within the corridor overlay.
Corridor overlay is what again, please?
Well, it's a special zoning district it is the corridor, and it's actually 3 districts. I should be more clear. Between basically it's the properties along Fifth Avenue South, just adjacent to Fifth Avenue South.
Right.
Between 42nd Street, or the road that heads out to 20, all the way along the corridor out to 169, and there's some special zoning regulations
all the way out to 69.
Yeah, and but it changes. That there's kind of 3 separate-ish places. There's one that's kind of more the more intense commercial, which is between I could get this 21st and out east to 42nd, and then between 21st. Either 8th or the Kenyon Road Bridge, there's a different kind of overlay rules, and then from Kenyon Road West, there's more of a different overlay rules because each section of the corridor has a different kind of feel to it. The western part's got the institutional feel with Iowa Central and the hospital and Friendship Haven, and then you got that more of a kind of a mixed use residential feel between the river and about 21st Street, and 21st Street on is where it gets that more of an intense commercial feel. So yeah, really what the way that impacts the overlay impacts the fireworks is to have a tent or outside display in that outside, I guess, tent. You have to have it adjacent to your building, and you can't do that.
Okay.
You can't have both. You can't have a fireworks adjacent to your building for safety reasons, and you can't have a tent 100 feet away from your building because of the corridor overlay.
Will you still leave my tent in the Fairway store or not?
Yep, that could be there.
Yeah.
It's just got to be 100 feet away from any of the other buildings.
As it was noted last night at the council meeting, this will really only affect 2 tents that were put up last year, right? The one by the community tap.
The one by community tap that was in between houses, that won't be able to be there. And then the one by Fort Frenzy, which is now a hotel, which we assumed wouldn't be there anyhow. Other than that, I think the rest of them would be able to be at the same locations. Maybe the one that was just north of the mall in the, what is it is it that Valvoline Quick Lube? I might get the brand wrong.
I think you're right.
East of Kemna, north of the mall, and
Yeah.
that side of the intersection. That might be there might be some difficulty locating that there. I think Krista mentioned yesterday she wasn't sure if there was room to put a tent, and it's be 100-foot setback from everything.
My man Richard Higgins asked an intelligent question last night.
Mm-hmm.
A hush
Yes.
fell over the crowd.
No, Richard's usually thoughtful with some questions.
Yeah, Richard's. I like Richard. He's a good guy. I've known him a long time now.
Yeah.
He's calmed down a little bit from his earlier days when he was raising so much hell. But
Yeah.
he's still and he has since he stopped all the advocacy stuff. He has concentrated and focused on the issues, and he seems to know the details and have a great familiarity with them. And Matt, he asked a question of Matt Bemrick, or the mayor, and the council last night that Matt took some time to answer. What was that about again? It was so detailed I didn't get it.
Yeah, and I don't know off the top of my head Richard asked about some items that were on the list as it relates to our general obligation bond. So last night the council held about 6 hearings, all for one, and you have to do it that way. This is all the legal
right
process we have to go through. On for one bond issue. The bond issue is going to total about $11.8 million, and within that one bond issue, about 15 different projects that we're funding through it. And Richard asked about one, and it escapes me right now. He goes, "Haven't we already done this project or paid for this?" And I think Richard was correct in that there are some projects on that list that have already started, that we've already either begun the planning process or even started the construction process, that we're now borrowing the money to pay ourselves back. Because what we do is we do bond issues usually every other year. Now, we did one in 2018, then we're coming right back into one in 2019, but then the next one's not till 2021. And so we sequence them out, but sometimes the projects get started earlier. For example, we just borrowed the money for some trail work down by the river side, but we've already paid the Corps of Engineers some of our share for that work because they've started the design and the basic construction. They haven't put the trail in, but they've started the work for that. We had on that item for the borrowing $640,000 for 2 ambulances and equipment. Those 2 ambulances are actually working now.
That's good.
So they're they were delivered. I think towards the end of January. I mean, they were ordered. They were a long time ago, and they were delivered at the end of January and put into service. So, but just so it's kind of a timing thing. Some of the projects we get going on, and the council can pass a simple resolution that basically states, for legal purpose, we're going to use our own money now, but we're going to pay ourselves back later on. And that's really what we did.
So it's good to pay yourself back.
Yeah.
Always good. Always good. So it was, I guess part of the meeting was taken up because we recognized the social workers.
Yeah, that was cool. We had
that was cool.
A bunch from, I think they must be studying social work at Iowa Central.
Well, there were a couple of actual social workers there, I believe.
Okay.
And Tony Trotter was called to the podium to talk about what? Do you remember? Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here, aren't I? I just read. What
was he called? It had to do with paving east of. So last night, it's a good thing to mention. Last night, the council approved the contract with Castor Construction to do another phase of the corridor, which may end up being the last phase. We'll have to decide whether that's something the council wants to pick up. We might do some work between 21st and 15th Street, but the phase, this is from 31st to 32nd Street, which is really almost like 2 blocks because the blocks are kind of longer in that part of town, of going in and doing the other work we've done in the corridor. We'll put plazas at the intersections, sidewalks, the decorative fencing, trees, all the stuff we've done in other phases of the corridor to kind of finish it out, get it to the 32nd Street, and that would be kind of the entryway into the corridor. And Councilman Hill asked if the pavement's going to go any farther because it's deteriorating, east of 32nd Street.
Right.
And to my shock, we have pavement deteriorating, but I'm glad we are going to fix it.
To your shock.
Yeah, it'd be funny. So, there's going to be new pavement. There's going to be a new surface put down between 32nd Street and the bridge, as Tony replied.
We're going to have a lot of work to do this spring.
We got a lot of work to do right now.
I was going to say, just since we've had this little comparatively warmer temperatures, I have seen parts of roads all over town heaved in big potholes, and we're not even in the frost really hasn't come out of the ground yet.
No, and we have every equipment that could fill potholes and scrape snow still out. So, we're at the same time we're getting pothole complaints, we're getting complaints that alleyways or streets still need to get cleared because we're getting some rutting now with the thaw. So we have all our loaders out. Plow trucks won't work right now. They can't put enough downforce on to get the ice off. So we got our loaders trying to lift that up. And likewise, we have our 2 trucks that fill potholes.
Yeah.
Out busily trying to fill holes all day long.
Are they doing that now?
Yeah. They've been doing it. They did it all day yesterday, and it's tough. It's a lot of, and it's bad. It
is bad in a lot of spots.
We haven't had a whole lot of winters like this where you have so much moisture in the ground before it freezes, and then these freeze thaw cycles now, and it's just really hard on the roads.
Yeah. It really is. I was going out to Willow Ridge the other day to go to the Rotary. Well, you were there, the Rotary meeting. I don't know if you noticed, but going up the hill there was a big bump, just a big, the road had heaved up. It was noticeable approaching it. I mean, it was that nasty. So with the projected rainfall for the next 2 days, and there actually is a hazardous weather alert in effect right now because we're expecting rain, which means flooding, I suppose. I was hoping that we would have a slower, if we're going to have the sort of rotten winter that we had, I was hoping that we would have a slow thaw spring, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think, I know we're under I don't know if it's a flood warning or a flash flood warning, but we've looked at like the projections of the river, and I mean, the river's pretty low now. It was as of last time I looked, which I think was yesterday afternoon on the USGS website, and it's only projected to go like to the 10-foot, maybe 10 plus level, which is minor flooding for us, and usually doesn't result in any type of any property damage or private property damage. We got to get pretty high before people's houses or other properties starting to get impacted. But the interesting thing is what could happen with an ice jam. I mean, an ice jam could pop up somewhere.
What does that mean? Why are we afraid of an ice jam in our river?
Well, when you get thaws, the ice starts flowing, the river starts flowing, and sometimes it gets hung up for whatever reason. I'm not an expert in that. It gets hung up, and it's created ice jams. I know.
Is there flooding behind the ice jam?
Yeah, and then the water doesn't get through, so it floods behind the ice jam. And I know we had one up north of town, not in the city, but in like the Breen Addition had some flooding.
Breen Addition always had flooding.
Yeah, but it was an ice jam that caused some couple of years ago now. And I think there's been, years past, there's been ice jams that impact the properties up by Willow Ridge, and that road has flooded, how severe the jam becomes and how long has it impact. The dams are gone now, so it'd be interesting to see if the ice water jams up the same way now that there's no impoundment from the dams. So
yeah. Well. David Ferrick is our guest. He's city manager of Fort Dodge. 515-955-1400. You have a question or comment for the city manager. What was I going to ask you? I forgot already. I just read a piece today that said if you forget a lot, it's really a sign of intelligence.
I think I read the same thing.
Did
I saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
So I must be really smart.
Oh, yeah, I must be a genius. I'm always forgetting.
I'm really good at hiding it, too.
AM 1400 KVFD. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
I was just kind of curious if we could get a little bit of a better explanation, or more, I guess I shouldn't say better, but like an in-depth explanation on that ambulance deal where they paid for the ambulances and they borrow the money back is that just to have money sitting around, or what's that for?
No, so the ambulances themselves would be paid out of the general fund, and because we needed 2 ambulances right away when we took over the ambulance function, all the 911 calls in July, it's rather large expenditure up front, and our general fund really couldn't take the hit of just paying that out of cash. So what we did is we can pay it up front. And the interesting thing about cities, which is different than how people live their lives with checkbooks or with businesses, is that fiscal year end and beginning means so much to us. So, when we first spent the money, which would have been whenever the delivery of them was in January, We have enough cash in our bank so that when we get the money back by late May, our year end will look fine because there'll be money out and then money back in. So it'll look like, and then we'll make annual payments to pay it back, to pay the ambulances back. No, we needed them, and we needed them soon, and we knew there was there's always a delay to you don't buy an ambulance off the lot. You have it, you order, you spec it, and then they have to build it, and it takes a while to get all that together. So I think our ordering to delivery was probably 6+ months. So that we went ahead and got that order placed and was ready to spend the money, and really, again, we're just paying ourselves back now.
Did the money originally come out of the general fund?
I don't know for sure. One of the things is when you look at our bank accounts, we do accounting by fund, but we could have we have fewer bank accounts than we actually have funds. So the money does get commingled at points. So I can't tell you if the actual cash that went out to pay the ambulance came out of a bank account that holds general fund money. That'd be a Jeff Nemers question. He handles the accounting and that. But I guess I would probably say yeah, but I don't know for sure from but from an accounting point, it's just debits and credits.
What's the status of the ambulances? Are they self-sufficient or not in Fort Dodge?
Is the ambulance fund self-sufficient? It's I would say it's looking like it will be. Again, we had 6 months in 2018, and so far we only have 2 months of activity, and so far it's looking pretty good. But we're still a relatively new entity in there. It seems like it's generating enough cash to be self-sufficient, and we do expect it to to cover other costs related to the fire that would help the general fund out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we got her? All right.
Yep.
All right, good enough. I just wanted to ask you, I remembered finally what I was going to ask you. Did the dam work get done, taking out the dam?
Well, they're done for where they can be now. So
all right.
and this is planned, and it's actually, I don't want to ever say a flood is a good time, but it is a good time for the river to come up. So they did the little dam, they've done the removal. And they still have to go in and do some bank work on either side. There's probably some more concrete that's going to come out, but they did the main part of the removal. On the big dam, they took it down as far as the DNR wanted it to come down first at the first step, because what the DNR wants to do is they want us to do a little bit of a phased removal. Because they don't want to release a lot of silt at any one given time. So we took out the 4 gates, left the 5th gate as was DNR accepted, and that was requested by the State Historic Preservation. They took out the spillway and everything down, except they left 4 feet of elevation, which still has to come out. Allow all the debris they've pulled off to one side, and it's just being stockpiled there. And then so when this heavy or higher flow comes through, it will push some of the silt
Jake Slammer
downstream.
You want some?
We want to see that silt that was backed up behind the dam get scoured and get sent downstream. Then the company will come back in and take that the debris that's sitting on the side, and they will build what's called a J hook. And what it'll look like is a giant concrete J that will extend north upstream from the river, and then back towards the shore. And what that's supposed to do is protect the east shoreline from erosion and keep the river kind of in the center of the stream bank, as it then help it kind of develop its own stream bank, and people can fish off it and do whatever off the J hook. So that's the plan. Now they'll have to come back and do that once the river comes up, which it looks like it's going to come up, and then it goes back down to where they can start doing that reconstruction. So it may be a while before they get back at that work. It'll just be, again, we're at the mercy of the river level now.
Always, yeah. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
David Ferrick, City Manager, has been our guest.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
God, I envy how mindless your job is.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Do you ever get tired of watching bad things happen to people?
Sticking up for you when no one else will.
Woo, good.
Yeah, that's right. 2:31 coming up. The news, the obituaries. Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Don't miss Branson, Missouri Entertainer of the Year, Joseph Hall, officially recognized as one of the top Elvis tribute artists in the world, along with Johnny Cash impersonator Paul E. Friday night, March 29th in the Cardiff Center at Fort Frenzy.
I hear the train coming. It's rolling around the bend.
Doors open at 5:30 and the Elvis and Johnny tribute starts at 7.
That's right here.
$5 in advance or $30 at the door. Get them now at Hy-Vee Ford Dodge, Fort Frenzy, the Iowa Outdoor Store, or here at our studios. Bring the whole family to
Things
see
happen to people
sticking up for you.
And the Man in Black as Joseph Hall and Paul Eve present the Elvis and Johnny tribute. Friday night, March 29th at Fort Frenzy. Brought to you in part by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating, the Iowa Outdoor Store, and Ball Plumbing Fort Dodge, Star Energy Manson, Mackey Motors Lake City, and United Bank of Iowa, Rockwell City, Pocahontas, and Fort Dodge. The Elvis and Johnny tribute is an Alpha Media event.
What does building a better bank look like? It starts with building Capital One cafes, warm, inviting places that feel nothing like a typical bank, where you can open an account with no fees or minimums in 5 minutes. And you'll always find people ready to help you, not sell you. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only. Offered by Capital One and a member FDIC. Cafes available in select locations. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. There was a fatal accident this morning west of Fort Dodge. Iowa State Patrol Trooper Paul Gardner has some details.
6:45 this morning, we were dispatched to a two-vehicle accident on Highway 7 right around the Cargill industrial plant west of Fort Dodge. Westbound van had crossed the center line and went head-on with a school bus that was out of Manson Northwest Webster School District. Both of them ended up on the north shoulder of the roadway. The driver of the van was dead on impact, and the driver of the school bus was injured and taken to Unity Point and life-flighted to Des Moines.
Gardner says there were no children on the school bus. Iowa State Patrol is currently investigating the cause of the accident, but Gardner says it appears the van crossed the center line into the path of the school bus. Highway 7 was closed for several hours and reopened at around 10 a.m. The names of those involved in the crash have not been released. The Iowa Senate has passed a bill to expand free speech protections at the state's community colleges and public universities. Republican Senator Amy Sinclair of Allerton says students should be allowed to join any campus group they want without the threat of discrimination.
But it is also not our place to tell a Christian group, a Muslim group, an LGBTQ group, or any other belief-based organization that they must be led by people who do not affirm the very beliefs on which the group was founded.
The bill is the legislature's response after a student group called Business Leaders in Christ was kicked off the University of Iowa campus for blocking an openly gay member from its leadership. Senator Zach Walz, a Democrat from Coralville, says some people could be denied leadership opportunities on campus if the bill becomes law.
This is nothing about a person's religious beliefs. This is a question about people who have an identity or belong to a group that has historically been marginalized. Those students are being denied. They're being denied because of who they are.
The bill passed the Senate on a 35-11 vote. It now goes to the House for consideration. At Monday's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, the council passed the first reading of Ordinance 2298 that states that all firework tents in Fort Dodge must be at least 100 feet from all structures. The first measure passed 5-2 with council members Dave Flattery, Nevin Conrad, Kim Allstott, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voting yes. Council members Jeffrey Halter and Lydia Scher voted no. Councilmember Allstott explained why he's in favor of the measure.
I think the 100-foot would work fine with that because there's only two places that would affect. It's the tent that was by the community tap. That's what we're really concerned about. That's why we were talking about this in the first place. They're only 20 foot away from existing homes, and we felt that was way too close. That's why we had this reading. That's why we wanted to change it to 100 foot.
Councilmember Halter expressed why he's against the ordinance.
I will not support that, as the fireworks industry itself that builds these things says that you should be a minimum of 150 feet up to 100 yards. So I just want to see a difference in what we have now and what capacity.
Fireworks ordinance has to pass 2 more times before it gets enacted. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice, Fort Dodge 236. First of all, we have a flood watch in effect from 1 o'clock this afternoon until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Excuse me, from 1 o'clock this afternoon until Thursday at 7 p.m. in the evening. We're expecting a lot of rain. We're going to get the flooding, I'm afraid, and that's just the way it is. And yeah, there might be ice jams. David Furick and I were talking about it in the last segment. Anyway, it's going to be foggy later on today. Our high will be 40 degrees, which is all good. And it's raining off and on now, of course. And a lot of the snow is melting. Overnight showers and thunderstorms continue through the evening. Areas of fog, low 38. That's a low temperature overnight of 38. Tomorrow, a thunderstorm, fog, a high 51. Going to be very, very windy. Wind gusting up to 30 miles per hour, maybe 40 miles per hour. Going to be a nasty day tomorrow. On Thursday, rain again, then some rain mixed with snow later in the day with a high of 44. Remains windy, of course. On Friday, sunny with a high of 36. Going to be a windy day. Of course, it's March. On Saturday, sunny, high 42. Sunday, it'll be sunny with a high of 43. On Monday, sunny with a high of 46. So with all the sunny skies toward the end of the week and through the weekend, we will certainly see a lot of snow melt. It's 37 degrees and rain around the county and around the area right now. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Joan George of Moreland has passed away at the age of 91. She passed away Saturday at the Good Samaritan Society in Manson. There will be a funeral service at 10:30 in the morning Saturday here in town for Joan E. George. Vic Defoe has died. Mr. Defoe passed away March 8th at the Fonda Specialty Care Center. His service will be at the Salvation Army Church at 126 North 7th, and it will be that'll be Thursday, March 14th from 4 to 6. That's for Vic Defoe. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:38 at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 37 degrees with a look at the closing market report. Here's Dwayne Merlin.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn up 4 cents at 356.5. May up 3 3/4 at 365 3/4. July up 4 cents at 375.5, and December up a nickel to close at 391.5. March soybeans up 7 cents at 884 3/4. May up 7 at 897. July up 7 at 911, and November beans up 6 3/4 at 932 1/4. March wheat closed up 24 cents at 446 1/4. Soybean meal up 160 a ton at 298.30. April live cattle down 235 at 126.65. June down 157 at 118.67. March feeders down $1 to close at 141.30. April down 157 at 144.40. April lean hogs closed up 80 cents at 63.65, and May up 72 at 71.75. I'm Dwayne Merley.
What does building a better bank look like? It starts with building Capital One cafes, warm, inviting places that feel nothing like a typical bank, where you can open an account with no fees or minimums in 5 minutes. And you'll always find people ready to help you, not sell you. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only, offered by Capital One and a member FDIC. Cafes available in select locations. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's like finding a unicorn.
But when you post your job on Indeed, it's easy to find people with the skills you need.
Nurse practitioner, 4+ years experience, acute care certification.
Indeed has a huge pool of amazing candidates and screener tools that help you find your most qualified applicants.
Whoa, an entire short list of unicorns.
Now, get a $50 credit to give your first job posting premium placement at Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, quality standards, and usage limits apply. Additional terms online.
We stand for people, progress and pride. Iowa Farm Bureau's by your side.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in Iowa's future. We support Iowa's youth, encourage ag innovations, and nurture new business opportunities in rural communities. We're a century strong and growing. To learn more, contact your local county farm bureau.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
That's right. We're broadcasting live. I'm breathing still, and I have a pulse and the whole thing. All right. That's working for me. Yeah, a lot of rain. Well, I guess we knew this was coming some way or another, but we're going to talk to Steve Peterson now and see how that affects farming. Steve Peterson is a past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, and he's been a regular on this program for a year already.
About right at a year, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And this part of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Steve, you're just off a big trip, buddy.
I did. I just got back Sunday night from. I went on a market study trip that Farm Bureau, they do one every year, and I was fortunate enough to get selected. And there was 26 farmers or people in the agricultural industry, I guess, scattered throughout Iowa, and we went to China for 10 days.
China for 10 days.
So
what a trip!
It was kind of a trip of a lifetime for me.
Sure.
And I had never left the country, so I figured first time out of the gate, I might as well go halfway around.
You might as well go, man.
And
that's actually on the other side of the world, or halfway.
It was 14 hours, so I'm pretty sure that's beyond halfway. So
did you see the Great Wall, man?
We did.
All right.
We gotta do we got to do some outside of the agricultural stuff that we're there. So it's we do it to witness and see and learn and but we had some of the China must do's. We did get to go to the Great Wall.
Sure.
That's insane that they built that,
isn't it?
It's clear up on those mountain ridges, and the time and effort, and it's just insane that they did that back then. And we also the other must see in China in Chengdu, which is out in the western side of China. We got to go to the National Panda Reserve. So
National Panda Reserve.
We got to see the state pandas.
Wow.
And that's, I guess, something special to see that. That's way off the beaten path for most people.
Yeah.
But my voice is a little hoarse. I've been fighting a cold since I got back. But this trip, I kind of did some tallies on what we did. It was about 18,000 miles what we traveled. We spent over 40 hours in buses and about 40 hours in the plane, and we got probably one of the neatest things I got to experience. Got to ride the high-speed bullet train in China, and
that must have been cool.
And spent about 3 hours there, but covered about 300 miles each way.
Yeah.
So they got, I think, top speed I seen was about 305 kilometers per hour, which I think is relatively 185, 190 mile an hour is what it went, and it's like you're floating on air, and it's just the most comfortable seats and service. We went, like I said, about 300 miles out of Beijing on that, and U.S. dollars. The whole trip I was trying to convert. What it would cost here in America. That trip was about $30 U.S. So very, I guess affordable in my respect to the travel. At the airport when we got there, they don't have any like small jets. They were all big jets, like big jets.
Sure.
These high-speed rail lines evidently kind of take place for their regional travel. So there was a lot of people, coming and going on there. It was just looked like massive depots with people lined up and whatnot. So
wow,
that was very interesting to see that type of infrastructure. I know they've tried to build something like that in California, but the Chinese in some respects are so far ahead of us in some ways. That country is going to 5G, cell service, which is exponentially more than 4G, which our country is, still filling in the gaps. One comment I noticed is I did have my cell phone activated over there. I didn't use it. I was technically off the grid, but I did have it. When I was staying on the Great Wall of China, I had 4 bars.
Really?
I don't have 4 bars 1 mile from my farmhouse. and that was pretty amazing to me. But they're so advanced in some ways and so far behind in others. And that was kind of the eye-opening thing for me to see, in agriculture.
In what ways are they behind?
Well, like a farmer, excuse me, a farmer over there from the state, they get it's 0.4 hectares. It's just shy of half a hectare, which I did the translate or the conversion. It's just short of an acre.
Yeah.
And that's what they get to farm. So, and there's approximately 450 million farmers. Okay, so
but that's a drop when you got 5 or 6 billion people.
Well, there's about 1.5 billion is the number we were told. So you have these 400.
Is that all 1.5 billion? I thought it was
1.5 billion.
I'm thinking of the world population. I'm sorry.
And you got to put in perspective, there's 320, 330 million here in the United States. So there's 450 farmers roughly in that country, and they're all farming this, and the government just gives them the land. They don't pay any rent or whatnot, and they get this land. Now they can grow, corn, or some are growing trees. We've seen a lot of tree farms north of Beijing, and at some point evidently in the last, they told us we were not going to see any trees older than 15 or 20 years.
15 or 20 years.
Prior to that,
in an ancient country,
the country was scavenged, and all the trees were harvested and used for fuel and everything else. And it's kind of eerie because there's not even any birds there. When the trees disappeared, all the birds disappeared too. So they're in a massive effort right now to repopulate their tree. So tree farming is actually a very lucrative thing there. And but these small cornfields, and I had some pictures taken there. You can't really, I could only tell they were a cornfield because there was like one plant maybe left, but they harvest everything out of this corn, and they do it all by hand. So they would be more what I would classify as gardeners than what we would.
That's exactly
than
right.
what we would here in the United States.
Yeah.
But they harvest the entire stalk, and they pick it by hand, and they pick it on the cob, and then they dry it on the roofs of their house. And
really,
and this is, or they'd hang the ears on a rope, and we'd see some of that. But the roots and the stalk and all that, they would use that for fuel to heat their homes with. So there's basically bare dirt when they're done harvesting. They get it all, and they live in little. They don't have like here in rural Iowa. Like my farm sits out, in the country. They live in these little communities, and it was hard to judge because we're, like I said, we're in a high-speed train going so fast.
Wow.
I want to say they're probably 8 to 10 miles apart, these little villages, and then they travel out to their designated plots to do their work, and then they travel back to their villages. So it very different than what we had here. And I asked a couple of the farmers, well, why don't you modernize and get equipment? And they don't have an answer. They don't know any different. So they think
they are modernized.
Well, they just don't know any different.
Yeah.
They're only, they just know what they've been told and taught. So it's hard to miss something you have never heard of or seen. But some other people that I asked, the answer I always got was the government's main purpose there is to keep the people fed, keep the people employed, and slowly give them advancements. In whether it's their diet or technology, or they got to keep giving them along. But they have to have these people. They have to give them something to do. Idle hands can be trouble. So that was very interesting, kind of enlightening on that part of it.
It's kind of the way we do things in this country.
There were some other crazy things that we learned. In China, and we had translators with us. So some other little tidbits were like in school, and I believe they don't have a K through 12 system like here. It would be kind of equivalent, I think, to 9th or 10th grade. They don't teach anyone how to read maps. And we kind of found that a little odd, but map reading is reserved for only the military personnel because they don't want the people ever to be able to
move around the country.
Well, or uprise against them. So they do not teach map reading. About 15, 20 years ago, Coca-Cola is huge in China. I mean, that's basically about the only common drink you can find anywhere you go in China is Coke. And Coca-Cola had supposedly over 1 million vending machines in Beijing alone.
Wow.
To restock these machines, they use GPS to identify these for their route people to make sure those machines were stocked and replenished all the time. Coca-Cola was the first company that ever made a detailed map of Beijing, and the government seen that as a threat to them and confiscated them. So
really,
yeah. So it was things like that were very enlightening and interesting.
That is a police state.
You know, and that's probably me going in. I didn't really know what to expect, but I quickly learned that I guess I always thought of China as a communist state, and it is very communist, I think, at the upper levels, at the government and the military, and there's not a whole lot of distinction between the military and the police. They are very closely related, but they're definitely at the communist level. The people, the best explanation I can probably give, they're kind of under an authoritarian rule. I mean, they definitely toe the line. They don't speak up. You very seldom would hear someone ever speak about the government. And then there's this crazy wild hybrid capitalism going on in different industries at all levels. And so it's a very unique environment and has a lot of moving components. We got to visit some dairies, which were very interesting. And they're very modern, the facilities we went to. And they have copied some of there's some dairies, I believe, in Illinois and Wisconsin that have like information centers, like kind of a learning farm. And they evidently have come here and copied a lot of that. And they're almost like tourist destinations. And it's to get people in. And there was the signs. I still can't read any Chinese, but it was pretty easy to decipher what's going on. They had a picture of a small Caucasian Western child that was, we'll say, pretty tall. And next to him was a little Chinese male that was quite a bit shorter.
Right.
And then what the gist was, you need to drink milk so you can be big and strong like a Western boy.
Really?
And it was
funny that they would take that attitude, but
they very much use, and I've seen it a lot in the women's cosmetic lines. There's a lot of advertisement for women's cosmetics. That seems to be a big thing, and they always used Western women in those advertisements. And there was just a lot of things like that. But then on the same token, like in this dairy, there was a chart and a bar graph, very easily explained. And they had their standards of how much safer their products are than what the United States is and what the European Union is. So they would use us when it was to their advantage. They would definitely throw us under the bus when it was to their advantage.
I imagine.
So that was pretty interesting. And they've developed this milk, and I'm not personally not a big milk drinker. They have this milk, and it's a high temp pasteurization process. It sits warm on the shelf, because we were seeing this in stores and little shops that we'd go into the markets. It was warm milk that could sit on the shelf for 6 months. And they're completely fine with that over there. They drink everything warm anyway, because there's not much refrigeration. And they've developed this process to keep milk for 6 months at room temperature, and milk and yogurt both. And that just seemed very odd to us, but they are just promoting this like crazy. So, I don't know that would really ever fly here in
Wouldn't
America.
work for me. I got to have a cold glass of milk, man.
We were at one of our meetings with some Chinese delegates, and we brought little gifts for them. They give us little stuff, and they gave us a glass of this warm milk. And I had to drink it. It's just one of those deals.
Right.
I bottoms up, and I did it, but that's
bottoms up, yeah.
That's about my extent there. That kind of
warm milk in my mind is sour milk. I take this wasn't sour.
No, it wasn't sour. It tasted fine, but it's just warm. Even the water over there, everything. There's no drinkable water in the country. You can't drink water out of the tap. We were staying in some very nice hotels, and there was warnings: do not drink the tap water. But you got to brush your teeth with bottled water. You got to do. That took a little figuring out how to do all that even. But and I asked our interpreter, I said, why do we drink the bottled water? Is there any safe water and this and that? Well, they've been told that the cold water is not healthy for their inside, so they drink everything warm. And so we always had warm bottles of water with us. I mean, it was everywhere, but that seemed odd to me. The first thing I did when I got home is I had a glass of ice tap water.
I bet you did.
I miss that probably more than anything in the world.
It's funny the things you miss.
Because we were also told not to drink the ice, or not to have anything. They did occasionally have ice, but we were told not to do that because that ice was made with the water we weren't supposed to consume. So it was rare, but there was ice occasionally that we seen, but we pretty much stayed away from that. So it was very, very eye-opening to the culture. The people are great. We were our group we were like rock stars there. We had little kids wanting to come up and take pictures with us, and people were always trying to talk to us. And we had a couple times we were
Was
in
English spoken by a lot of people there?
more than you'd think, and especially the younger people. And I think they pushed that. We've seen some stores that you could learn English in 12 months, and I think some of them are especially pushing their kids to speak English because it's a chance at a future they wouldn't have there.
Well, from what I understand, French used to be the international language.
Yeah.
But that's been quite a long time ago, maybe even in the 19th century.
Yeah.
The international language now is English. If Egyptians are doing business with the Chinese, they're speaking English.
Yeah. And they have kind of I think a lot of them have more of a connection to English. And I'm not sure. They had this thing they called, I think I'm right on they called it pinging. And because I asked the question, we were in these factories and all the computer keyboards were English letters. And I'm trying to figure out how they're typing in Chinese on I would assume they would have had a Chinese keyboard, but they do character. Somehow they have almost a code, and they transmit the English characters into Chinese to get Chinese characters on the screen. So it looks like Chinese when they're typing, and it was bizarre. And they were very proficient in it. So they've kind of even got a middle language that translates the what I would call an English character into the Chinese, and that was crazy to see that.
All right, Steve Peters is our guest. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm.
When it comes to my weed control, I know a head start can go a long way. That's why I spray early, so I can keep control all season long with the Roundup Ready Extend crop system, the system that makes the difference. This is my field.
Choose the Roundup Ready Extend crop system for control of more weeds than any other soybean system. Featuring XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology to manage tough-to-control weeds, including up to 14 days of soil activity, along with the field-proven performance of Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans. Now you have the right tools to extend your weed control and extend your yield with the system that makes the difference. Learn how you can put the system to work in your field when you visit RoundupReadyExtend.com. XtendiMax is a restricted use pesticide. Performance may vary. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions. Check local regulations for specific requirements in your state.
Michael Devine and Janine.
All right, the news is coming up, and then we'll be back with Steve Peterson from the Webster County Farm Bureau. It's 3 o'clock. This is KVFD Fort Dodge, Iowa.
It's everything digital on the Kim Commando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
A guilty plea in a college admissions scandal. Melissa Brady, Fox News, the consultant accused of being the ringleader who made millions with a scheme to help parents cheat, lie, and bribe their kids into top schools.
Got a middle language.
Just appearing in federal court in Boston. 58-year-old William Singer, among dozens of people charged in all.
When it comes to
along with some Ivy League coaches accused of taking bribes to accept fake athletic credentials.
In many instances, Singer helped parents take staged photographs of their children engaged in particular sports.
U.S. Attorney Andrew Leland in Boston says Singer also set up a bogus charity so that payments would be tax deductible for the parents. Two of the parents are well-known actresses, Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. Many of the schools where coaches and testing officials have been charged, including Yale, Stanford, and UCLA, are putting the accused on leave and say they're fully cooperating with investigators. Another crushing defeat just moments ago for the British Prime Minister as a tweaked Brexit plan fails in Parliament. Fox's Simon Owen is live in London.
Lisa, another dramatic night in Parliament here and another bruising defeat for Prime Minister Theresa May, who is also battling a croaky voice.
I profoundly regret the decision that this House has taken tonight.
Lawmakers rejecting May's proposal for Britain's EU divorce, just as they did in January. The Prime Minister saying Parliament will now vote later this week on either leaving the EU without a transition deal or delaying Brexit, currently set for the end of the month. Lisa?
Thanks, Simon. A U.S. Senate committee plans to hold hearings on the deadly crashes involving Boeing's 737 MAX 8 planes. The list of countries and airlines temporarily grounding those planes or banning them from airspace for now continues to grow, but Boeing and the FAA insist they are safe to fly. Mixed finish on Wall Street, the Dow down 94 points. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For JD Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
The U.S. Senate, a vote now set for Thursday on a resolution to block the president's use of a national emergency to get funds for a border wall.
I think everybody in my conference is in favor of the president's position on the wall and on border security.
But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says it's no secret that declaring an emergency on the issue has generated a lot of discussion. And he says those discussions will continue. Supporters of the resolution are expected to have enough votes to pass it, but not enough to override a promised veto. A suspect now in custody in California, where the body of a 9-year-old girl was found in a duffel bag on a trail.
LA County Sheriff's investigators arrested Emil Hunt for the murder of 9-year-old Trinity Love Jones. He was Trinity's mother's boyfriend. Investigators say they arrested him after finding him sleeping in his vehicle in San Diego. Records indicate he was in prison for more than 10 years for torture and child abuse before. Antonio Jones is Trinity's father.
She was just took way too soon, and she's an angel now, you know.
Hunt has been charged with 1 count of murder, and his bail was set at $2 million. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Investigators in Utah just confirming that DNA testing has backed up what a notorious serial killer told them before he was executed, that he murdered a northern Utah teen. A 17-year-old who was with her parents at a high school play back in November of 1974 when she left during intermission to pick up her brother at an ice skating rink and never returned. Investigators testing bone fragments and confirming it did belong to the girl. All of this confirming what Ted Bundy said 36 hours before his execution in 1989 when he confessed to killing that girl and other young women. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. There was a fatal accident this morning west of Fort Dodge. Iowa State Patrol Trooper Paul Gardner has some details.
6:45 this morning, we were dispatched to a 2-vehicle accident on Highway 7 right around the Cargill industrial plant west of Fort Dodge. Westbound van had crossed the center line and went head-on with a school bus that was out of Manson Northwest Webster School District. Both of them ended up on the north shoulder of the roadway. The driver of the van was dead on impact, and the driver of the school bus was injured and taken to Unity Point and life-flighted to Des Moines.
Gardner says there were no children on the school bus. Iowa State Patrol is currently investigating the cause of the accident, but Gardner says it appears the van crossed the center line into the path of the school bus. Highway 7 was closed for several hours and reopened at around 10 a.m. The names of those involved in the crash have not been released. The Iowa Senate has passed a bill to expand free speech protections at the state's community colleges and public universities. Republican Senator Amy Sinclair Vallerton says students should be allowed to join any campus group they want without the threat of discrimination.
But it is also not our place to tell a Christian group, a Muslim group, an LGBTQ group, or any other belief-based organization that they must be led by people who do not affirm the very beliefs on which the group was founded.
The bill is the legislature's response after a student group called Business Leaders in Christ was kicked off the University of Iowa campus for blocking an openly gay member from its leadership. Senator Zach Walz, a Democrat from Coralville, says some people could be denied leadership opportunities on campus if the bill becomes law.
This is nothing about a person's religious beliefs. This is a question about people who have an identity or belong to a group that has historically been marginalized. Those students are being denied. They're being denied because of who they are.
The bill passed the Senate on a 35-11 vote. It now goes to the House for consideration. At Monday's Fort Dodge City Council meeting, the council passed the first reading of Ordinance 2298 that states that all firework tents in Fort Dodge must be at least 100 feet from all structures. The first measure passed 5-2 with council members Dave Flattery, Nevin Conrad, Kim Allstott, Terry Menke, and Dean Hill voting yes. Council members Jeffrey Halter and Lydia Scher voted no. Councilmember Allstott explained why he's in favor of the measure.
I think the 100-foot would work fine with that because there's only two places that would affect. It's the tent that was by the community tap. That's what we're really concerned about. That's why we were talking about this in the first place. They're only 20 foot away from existing homes, and we felt that was way too close. That's why we had this rating, and that's why we wanted to change it to 100 foot.
Councilmember Halter expressed why he's against the ordinance.
I will not support that, as the fireworks industry itself that builds these things says that you should be a minimum of 150 feet up to 100 yards. So I just don't see a difference in what we have now and what we pass.
Fireworks ordinance has to pass 2 more times before it gets enacted. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with scattered rain showers likely. Highs level off around 40. Winds out of the south 10 to 20 miles per hour. Overcast again tonight. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Lows dip down to about 38. Scattered thunderstorms again tomorrow. Highs around 51. A dusting of snow Thursday night. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 37.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We are the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in nurturing our state's most precious resource, our children. That's why we provide millions of dollars in scholarships, grants, and resources to Iowa students and teachers. For more information, contact your local county farm bureau.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
At Menards, nobody beats our prices on paint, so you can tackle any project at low prices. Exceed your expectations of what makes great paint with Pittsburgh Paramount interior and exterior paint. It provides the most advanced protection in true one-coat coverage. Save $10 a gallon after mail-in rebate on Pittsburgh Paramount paint. Now, during Menards, think spring sale. Nobody beats our prices at Menards. Sale prices good through March 16th.
Save big money at Menards.
Sounds like you've got the crud. Cough, fever, sinus pressure, body aches. What should you take? Which over-the-counter medicine is best? You sure don't know, but the people at Daniel Pharmacy do. The pharmacists and technicians at Daniel Pharmacy are ready to help. They drop what they're doing, ask you what you're looking for, go down the aisle with you, and help you find the best medication for your symptoms. Daniel Pharmacy, caring for you and about you for over 50 years at 1114 Central Avenue, downtown Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
These are the new leads. These are the Glengarry leads. And to you, they're gold. And you don't get them. Why? Because to give them to you is just throwing them away.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
Okay, here we go. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, kind of a rainy, foggy day, but that's what's going to happen for the next couple of days, clear till Thursday at 7 o'clock, from what I understand. Yeah, there'll probably be water over the road in a couple of places and all that fun stuff that we have in spring sometime. And, of course, boy, did we get a lot of snow this year. This part of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau, and with us is the past president of the Farm Bureau, Steve Peterson, who's just back from China. What's going on over there, Steve?
Oh, trying to recover from jet lag.
You're trying to recover from jet lag?
It's real.
Is it better or worse than trying to recover from a hangover?
I'd almost take a hangover right now. I'm trying to look at the clock. I think this would be 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday.
Oh, for crying out loud! That clock says 10 after 2. It's 10 after 3.
Well, where I'm
11 after
been
3.
adjusted to is it's 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So yeah,
you're all screwed up. Then
I am. I've caught a cold too, and I don't know to take Dayquil in the day or NyQuil or when to take what So hopefully by the end of the week I get my bearings back. So
what's you just heard the weather forecast? How's that hitting you?
So far, it's just part of it. I do know that there's a lot of farmers that definitely need to get some spring work done, and they were hoping for an early window in March to get that done. We'll see how fast this stuff melts and how fast it goes away. There looks to be some warmer temperatures from what I see coming in the next couple weeks, but it also looks like we got some weather patterns that could give us some rain too. So
I was watching the news the other day on Ag Day, actually, and the weather forecasters were thinking wet weather into the middle of April.
Yes, and that's kind of the indication I've seen, but I don't think anyone really wants to talk about that at this point. So there's you got to realize last fall was unique. There's a tremendous amount of field work that wasn't done. There's virtually no anhydrous ammonia got put on, and there's a lot of ruts. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be patched up, before we can.
That was a little ugly last fall. I hope we have a little bit drier year.
So it's going to be challenging. I do know that ideally we would have had an early window, which happens many times, and we could get out in March and do some activities like that. But that's definitely doesn't look like it's a possibility this year. So there's not a lot we can do about it.
It is unpredictable. I remember spreading fertilizer in February, and a week later there was a foot of snow.
Hopefully I can get some snow moved here or melted, or so I can get some shed doors open. There's a lot of guys can't get their machines. The sliding doors open right now because of the snow, and we'll start getting some equipment out and hooked up and ready to go, because when that time's there, you're going to have to go.
Sure.
It's Iowa, and it's just the way it is now.
It's just the way it is. That's right.
Yeah, get ready and be ready to go when the Mother Nature permits us. So
are you ready, or you're still trying to shake off the jet lag?
Well, I hope I got the jet lag off by then. But it's an experience. Like I said, I've never left the country, and I got to thank Farm Bureau for giving me the opportunity to do this and to learn. And I'll be talking to some different groups, and next week I my notes and all that. Next week I'll probably try to talk more about the African swine flu and what we've seen with that, and but it was just eye opening. It really, really was. And I learned. I went in with some preconceptions of what I thought China was, and coming back now and reflecting on the trip. And that's what it's really for. It's a market study, and it's to study the markets, the cultures, and why, and then to come back and share these experiences with other people to get a better understanding. So, met some great people there. I met a young man. He's from Chicago, and he went to the Chengdu, which is in the Sichuan province, which that's Western China, on the mountainous border, kind of getting close to Tibet. And he's 30 years old. He went to this region to sell fish food. Whatever made him do that, I don't know. But he had a hard time selling fish food to these farmers.
This guy's from Chicago?
Yeah, from Chicago. Very intelligent. It's just his mind. It's just he's always thinking, and so he goes out to this region to sell fish food. Well, he quickly learns that the Chinese people that are raising the fish, they have absolutely no economic principles. They don't have much of an education, and to buy all this fish food and it just didn't make sense to him. Long story short, he's now basically formed a co-op with 100 farmers that are raising fish.
Chinese farmers
that are raising fish on these really cold mountain rivers. And they built these fish farms, and they're completely gravity run. So the water, they tap into the river and they get the water and it goes through these pins and it goes out. And I mean, there's no electricity. So these things are very efficient and just amazing. But he went into these farms, and if I remember my numbers kind of right, this one particular farm, it's now producing like 50,000 kilos of fish. And prior to this, they were probably under 10,000 with a lot of death and all this. And then he took it a step further and he joined like 100 of these farmers together to form kind of what I would call a co-op. And then he went into the cities and started selling and making markets for them in the high-end restaurants, the high-end hotels. He can go to there's a major import center in Chengdu, and so they can actually ship fresh fish within 24 hours anywhere in China on overnight freight. So he's really opened up and expanded these guys into kind of modern business or just basic business tactics, because they just had nothing. And it was very interesting to listen to. He brought his knowledge and ways and common sense and went there to sell food, and ended up basically being the kind of the CEO of the co-op for these farmers, and really helping them out and changing their lives. So it's just amazing. And
it sounds amazing.
And
there's so many amazing things going on in agriculture.
And then another little odd thing, he went to Japan and developed a special way to process the fish, which allows them to be kept longer. And this was so simple, it was just unreal. They'd basically sever the spinal cord in the fish, and then they cut the gill plate and they let them bleed out in the water. So so the fish doesn't smell. It has a longer shelf life. It keeps a fish fresher. And then when he filleted it, he filleted one right there for us, and the fish was pink, and that seemed a little odd because these were rainbow trouts that they were.
Oh, really?
They were 8-pound rainbow trouts, so they're big.
Wow.
And but it was pink. It looked just like a salmon, and we kind of all caught on that real quick because a trout is generally more of a light colored flesh. They put a pigment in the food to make the flesh that color because the Chinese people are more adjusted to the pink salmon, and they're willing to pay a premium for that type and look of fish. So he was pretty, his train of thought was just amazing to see what he has done with something out there in the middle of nowhere. And then we got in, we had a village prepare a meal for us that was all set up nearby, and we got to eat one of those trouts. It was my first time I've ever had raw fish.
Trout in China.
Yeah, rainbow trout.
How do you like that?
And so I got to have my first raw fish, and then shortly after that, I had sushi in Tokyo or Hong Kong. So,
oh God, I don't know if I could. Maybe trout, but no. I
got a list. I had to start writing down all the different things I ate, and the one thing I did not care for, and some of the guys on the trip said, "Oh, it was good here and there," and I just never experienced a good one. Was pig's ears.
Oh, really?
Boy, you can chew on those and chew and chew and chew.
I believe you.
There was nothing good about that pig's ear. It didn't taste bad. It was I didn't see the point of it. But we would sit down for a lot of these dinners, and they would set 15, 20 dishes on a big lazy Susan. And most of the places I got very proficient with chopsticks, because it was either eat with your hands or learn to use chopsticks. And you can tell by my size, I'm not going to miss out. So I got really good at using chopsticks.
Yeah, God, I remember as a young American serviceman years ago, they used to have these little roadside vendors, and they'd want to sell these shish kebab looking things. So I grabbed one time. It was only a quarter, and the meat was a little tough. I was told it was water buffalo, but one of the girls later told me that usually it's cat or monkey that they're selling you.
We asked about that because, again, we went in with some what we were told that's going to be more getting into Vietnam and Laos and south of us.
Yeah, but they eat dog in China. They have, they sell dog in the markets.
I never seen that. And we went into
trust me.
Well, we went into four four wet markets, I guess they call them.
Yeah.
And the fruits and vegetables, and we even went in. We got to go see the import-export center where a lot of this stuff comes in, and then that market where these people went and bought. So we've seen kind of the chain of how this stuff is coming in. Strawberries were just gigantic over there. I've never seen strawberries so big. But the fruits and vegetables look extremely good. The meats, they are creative. They eat a lot of stuff that are a lot of cuts, like pig snoots and pig's feet and stuff that, I never seen like pork loins and chops and stuff like that.
Hey, my grandparents never wasted any of the pig. They butchered their own hogs, and the only thing that they didn't
eat was the squeal.
That's right.
Yeah, that's just kind of the old stories I've heard too. But over there, definitely they were more diverse, and these markets were huge. But to think about the area that they served, there was hundreds of thousands of people living within a half mile of each of these markets. So, because I was like, they're cooking food still. It's like, and they said, well, it'll get a certain time, and then everyone comes. They don't shop. They don't have refrigeration. So they're living in a family of 4 or 3 would be living in a room the size of the studio, and they just don't have refrigeration and whatnot. They shop day to day. And, so it becomes, interesting they just go to these local markets. They pick up what they needed. There was, roasted ducks and we ate a lot of duck. I would say that, there was a snack stand at a kind of it wasn't necessarily a food market, but it was more of a kind of a flea market thing or festival thing. And these little kids were eating these, and it was bizarre to us, but they loved them. They were fried rabbit heads.
Really?
And they look
That's disgusting.
Once you knew what they were, you seen the teeth and everything, and they were chew on those things like no other. And another thing we'd see a lot of meat was the fried chicken legs or chicken feet and duck feet.
I've seen that.
And we had a couple of our guys that bought one that wasn't going very far. So
I've talked before about being in Asia and catching I'd see the Asians catch bugs and boil them and give them to me. Well, they were large beetle-looking things, and you'd boil them and crack them open and eat the rice in them because they were rice bugs. What they were. It was good with butter.
That was one of my goals. If I seen a bug there that was prepared, I was going to eat it. But I never did see a bug that was for sale. In all this, I seen a lot of nuts and cashews, and they were delicious. Some of that stuff was just absolutely great.
How do they raise livestock there?
Well, again, there's 450 small farmers, and so there's a tremendous amount of
450 million
or 450 million. There's a large amount of what I would probably call primitive type farms. There are, like some of the dairies we went to now, they were very modern. The one dairy, because it was 5-6 years ago, there was a baby formula scandal that hit China, and there was an additive that was in the milk. I think it was called like melamine.
I heard about that.
And there were some babies that died, and there was pretty much an uprising in there because we talked to them about food safety and all this. Well, their FDA was pretty cut and dried. There was some ministers in the upper party that set the standards now for qualities and whatnot.
By ministers, you mean government ministers?
Government officials in the party people. They would set the standards, and then how they explained it to us was that there could be someone come in the company and take a sample, and they would have a third party test the product. Or they would go out into a market and buy the product that these people were making and have this third party test the product. There was basically 3 things that could happen. It would pass, it would fail, but if it failed, the boss of the company or whoever was in charge of that division would go to jail or be executed.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
That's right.
There's not much gray area in there. So
I kind of appreciate that, actually. We're so fuzzy about law and order here in this country, but if you do something that outrages the public and you are guilty, you are going to pay.
So, and so, like these dairies we were going to, and like I we have them here in the United States, but we could learn something too by them about the amount of how they're trying to publicize and show, you know, how this stuff's being done and how they're treated. And I mean, a dairy is a great way to do it because, you know, I don't know if it happened. I was gonna when I was gone. Did the tour happen up at the Eagle Grove?
No, doggone it, I was going to go, but I think it was supposed to be on Saturday the 2nd. We had a bad storm that weekend, and I think it's been canceled. And that's really disappointing because I look forward to going through that.
Well, you know, I mean, a facility like that is, you know, for a lot of people is not a good story to tell. I mean, it's a modern facility. You want to show that the animals are humanely, but
why isn't it a good story?
Well, it's not as rosy as maybe a dairy is. You know, because a dairy, there's no animals getting hurt. They're getting milked. You're showing the safety.
Somebody my age grew up in Iowa, and I never even grew up on the farm. Slaughtering animals is part of the deal, you know?
Correct. I would agree with that. But a dairy is a very easy, rosy story to tell, and they're definitely doing that in China to show the message, especially after that scandal with the baby formula. So, you know, they're doing that there, and like I said, there's some things I think we could do maybe better for our. You know, we take a lot of things for granted here in the United States, but I would feel safe drinking water out of any tap, you know, here in Fort Dodge or anywhere else. And over there, they had you scared to death. You know,
I bet
not to drink that water.
Well,
there was warning labels everywhere, and so we didn't. Personally,
they're behind in energy production and in water
the smog was unreal when we landed in Beijing, and the reason I was told in Beijing it's kind of in a mountainous region where the air doesn't, it's kind of locked by the wind. The wind's not real strong there.
Oh, really?
And so it doesn't clean the air out. Chengdu was pretty nice as far as air quality, but that was in a completely different region in the mountains.
Well, that's that's a very interesting. Did you get a feel how they raise? Do they have any large farming facilities?
There are some large like crop facilities, but they're clear up in the northeastern part of the state or the country. We didn't tour up in that side, and we specifically stayed out of the areas that were affected by the African swine flu. So we did alter our trip a little bit because of that. I know we had some talks with the pork producers and whatnot. So we did stay out of specific regions because of that. But that's why we went over to this Chengdu region and got to see, you know, the fish farms and some of the other stuff. And then we whipped around the bottom south part and then into Hong Kong, which I didn't realize Hong Kong. I guess I was asleep that day in history. The British had it for a long time. They took it after some opium wars.
Yes.
And recently they had an agreement they would give it back to China, and it's kind of in a transition phase now. And it was very interesting. We talked to some of the United States diplomats in Hong Kong, and they talked a term I had never heard about, gray trade. And that was something I just had never heard about. And evidently there are no tariffs going into Hong Kong.
Oh, really?
Hong Kong and Vietnam are not affected by any of these tariffs. So there are products and trade going into those countries, which then can flow into China. And because it goes through legally through a port, it is not considered black market. So it's legally goes through those two countries and then into China. And then it's considered what is called gray trade. So it's a gray area in the trade system. And they told us a lot of times to look at the actual trade numbers. You need to include those states or those countries in with the Chinese amounts, because sometimes just looking at China, the things won't add up right. But if you include Vietnam and Hong Kong, the numbers all of a sudden make sense. So
you've had quite a couple of weeks there, haven't you?
It was interesting. A lot of information to take in. So.
All right. Steve Peters has been our guest. This part of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Mike.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. 3:31. The news is next.
First State Bank, first for you.
First State Bank and its ag lenders are first for you. They have the desire to work with you and the authority to make their decisions locally. When it comes to agriculture, they strive to be your #1 financial institution leader. Stop in or give Fort Dodge Ag Loan Officers Craig Barber or Emily Lawler a call to see how they can help you grow. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
First State Bank, first for you.
In today's economy, it just makes sense to plan ahead. At
Great
Historic
idea.
Bruce Funeral Home, pre-planning your funeral arrangements can save you money. By planning ahead, you can secure your arrangements at today's prices, no matter when their services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call them for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Celebrating life, Historic Bruce Funeral Home.
A house doesn't become a home until a dog lives there. Sorry, or a cat. Almost Home presents their 11th annual Fur Ball, Saturday night, March 16th from 7 to 11 at Fort Dodge Ford. Come enjoy a night of fun for the fur babies with live and silent auctions, a live band, games, a cash bar, tons of prizes, and delicious food courtesy of Amigos with desserts from Hummingbird Confections and Lorita's Cakes and more. Advance tickets are $20 each or $30 a couple. Get your tickets now at Hy-Vee and Humboldt or Fort Dodge, Almost Home, or Fort Dodge Ford Toyota, or get them at the door for $25 each. All proceeds will go to Almost Home for the care of homeless cats and dogs, from newborn kittens to senior cats, from tiny puppies to full-grown adult dogs. Almost Home takes care of them all until they find a forever home of their own. Don't miss Almost Home's 11th annual Fur Ball, Saturday night, March 16th at Fort Dodge Ford Toyota, sponsored by Nestle Purina.
What does building a better bank look like? It starts with building Capital One cafes, warm, inviting places that feel nothing like a typical bank, where you can open an account with no fees or minimums in 5 minutes. And you'll always find people ready to help you, not sell you. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only. Offered by Capital One and a member FDIC. Cafes available in select locations. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
Are you more than $10,000 in debt? Don't let the credit card companies bully you anymore. There are programs in place to help you get free of your debt, and you don't have to pay the entire amount you owe. Get free of credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and medical bills. Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands. They're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, too. Don't go bankrupt. You'll have the right to settle your debt for a mere fraction of what you owe. Call Total Financial now at 866-844-7344. That's 866-844-7344.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. There was a fatal accident this morning west of Fort Dodge. Iowa State Patrol Trooper Paul Gardner had some details.
6:45 this morning, we were dispatched to a two-vehicle accident on Highway 7 right around the Cargill industrial plant west of Fort Dodge. Westbound van had crossed the center line and went head-on with a school bus that was out of Manson Northwest Webster School District. Both of them ended up on the north shoulder of the roadway. The driver of the van was dead on impact, and the driver of the school bus was injured and taken to Unity Point and life-flighted to Des Moines.
Gardner says there were no children on the school bus. Iowa State Patrol is currently investigating the cause of the accident, but Gardner says it appears the van crossed the center line into the path of the school bus. Highway 7 was closed for several hours and reopened at around 10 a.m. The names of those involved in the crash have not been released. The Iowa Senate has unanimously voted to ban female genital mutilation and charge those who performed the procedure with a felony. Senator Amy Sinclair, a Republican from Allerton, says a recent survey indicated 5,000 women and girls in Iowa were at risk.
This bill criminalizes a violent criminal act against small girls. This bill matters.
A version of the bill ready for debate in the House would establish a lesser penalty for the practice, an aggravated misdemeanor. Senator Jake Chapman of Adel objected.
Shame on the House. This practice is horrific. This practice should be classified as torture.
Female mutilation or cutting is routinely done on girls in countries like Somalia. Some lawmakers have called for spending state money to educate Somali refugees of the risks.
I imagine if any of us moved to another country where circumcision was against the law, we would want to know about it. Things that are cultural norms in one country are not cultural norms in another country.
That's Senator Janet Peterson of Des Moines, the leader of Democrats in the Iowa Senate. She voted for the bill, but used the occasion to complain that other bills dealing with gender inequality have languished in the Senate. The United Nations estimates more than 200 women and girls around the globe have experienced some form of genital mutilation. In some cultures, women who have not undergone such procedures are shunned by prospective husbands. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds has simplified the process by which convicted felons can seek restoration of their voting rights. Reynolds' action comes as lawmakers consider her proposed constitutional amendment, which would automatically restore voting rights to most felons who have completed their sentences. Reynolds said Tuesday the process she's created reduces an application from 3 pages to 1. It removes the requirement to submit a criminal background check and a related $15 fee, and it doesn't require the collection of financial documentation that can be verified online. Reynolds says her goal is to grant or deny applications within a month of receipt. Reynolds has restored voting rights for 122 offenders. Her proposed constitutional amendment to restore voting rights to felons passed the House Judiciary Committee last week. Iowa and Kentucky are the only states with broad permanent bans on felons voting. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge 337. First of all, in the weather, there's a flood watch in effect from now until Thursday at 7 o'clock in the evening. Hazardous weather outlook, flood watch, all that sort of thing. We're going to have a lot of rain, a lot of wind. The rest of today, patchy fog, some rain. Our high might get to 40, 37 right now. Overnight thunderstorms, a thunderstorm around 2 a.m. as a matter of fact. Patchy fog toward morning, low overnight 38 degrees. That's a low. Tomorrow, showers, a lot of wind, maybe a thunderstorm, patchy fog. Yeah, we're moving into spring kind of violently here. The wind could be exceptionally strong, maybe up to 40 miles per hour. So hang on to your hats, that's for sure. On Thursday, rain, possibly mixed with snow and a high of 44. Friday, sunny with a high of 36. On Saturday, sunny with a high of 42. Sunday, sunny with a high of 43. Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 46. 3 straight days with sunny skies and temperatures in the 40s. That'll melt a lot of snow. Right now, 37 degrees at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Loftus File Receivers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus File Receivers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilereceiversfuneralhome.com. Joan George has died at the age of 91. Joan E. George has passed away. Funeral services for Joan George will be 10:30 in the morning on Saturday at Loftus File Receivers Funeral Home with visitation Friday from 4 to 7 at Loftus File Receivers. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Loftus File Receivers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus File Receivers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilereceiversfuneralhome.com. It's 3:40 at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 37 degrees. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn up 4 cents at 356.5. May up 3 3/4 at 365 3/4. July up 4 cents at 375.5, and December up a nickel to close at 391.5. March soybeans up 7 cents at 884 3/4. May up 7 at 897. July up 7 at 911, and November beans up 6 3/4 at 932 1/4. March wheat closed up 24 cents at 446 1/4. Soybean meal up 160 a ton at 298.30. April live cattle down 235 at 126.65. June down 157 at 118.67. March feeders down $1 to close at 141.30. April down 157 at 144.40. April lean hogs closed up 80 cents at 63.65, and May up 72 at 71.75. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Is there an easy way to eat more whole grains? Hi, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Popcorn is a whole grain. That's easy. But to be healthy, it shouldn't be covered in butter and salt. Go lightly on both. Read the ingredients list and choose foods that name a whole grain ingredient first on the list. Look for things like whole wheat, brown rice, bulgur, buckwheat, oatmeal, whole grain cornmeal, whole oats, or whole rye. The color of a food is not an indication that it is a whole grain food. MyPlate.gov says foods labeled as multigrain, stone ground, 100% wheat, cracked wheat, and so on are usually not 100% whole grain products and might not contain any whole grains. Save time. Cook extra brown rice or oatmeal when you have time. Refrigerate half of what you cook to eat and serve later in the week. Use whole grains in mixed dishes such as barley in vegetable soups or stews and bulgur wheat in casseroles or stir fries. Any food made from wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, barley, or another cereal grain is a grain product. People who eat whole grains as part of a healthy eating style have a reduced risk of some chronic diseases. Make simple changes. To make half your grains whole grains, choose 100% whole wheat bread, bagels, pasta, or tortillas, brown rice, oatmeal, or grits. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off at school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Here's farmer and landowner John Prue.
We purchased land about 3 years ago, and there was an old farmstead on there with trees. We were going to clear the land so we could farm through it. We thought we knew where the pipe was, so we didn't call to get it located. The work on our property led to the damage of a light crude pipeline. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it could have been much worse.
Never assume the location or depth of underground lines. Always call 811 or visit clickbeforeyoudig.com before you start work. A message from the Pipeline Operators for Ag Safety Campaign.
Tough as nails, nerves of steel. If you've come to test our metal, you better tighten up your chin strap. Get amped up for all the great iron action on the Panther Sports Network.
University of Northern Iowa Sports are brought to you on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, by Mitch Lund, State Farm, Party Productions, The Other Store, and New Age Media. Catch UNI Sports right here on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Thrifty White Community Health Corner. Immunizations are not just for kids. Adults should keep their vaccinations up to date as well. Thrifty White Pharmacy's certified immunization pharmacists can vaccinate against shingles, measles, pneumonia, and more. Staying up to date on your vaccines can keep you healthy and prevent diseases from affecting your family and your community. Visit your local Thrifty White Pharmacy. Our knowledgeable pharmacy staff is here to help determine which vaccines are right for you.
Active Health presents their Irish I Was Getting Adjusted Patient Appreciation Day. Get $17 adjustments on Friday, March 15th, and $17 a new patient appointment the week of March 11th. Find out how you could walk away with a cash-filled pot of gold, too. All proceeds from their Patient Appreciation Day will be given to the Fort Dodge Community Schools Foundation. Don't miss the Irish I Was Getting Adjusted Patient Appreciation Day, Friday, March 15th at Active Health Chiropractic, Fort Dodge.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
Please be done.
over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
There's a ton of potential in your field. Tap into it with Extract from Nutrient Ag Solutions. Extract works for you by driving mineralization in soils and unlocking nutrients found in crop residues through powerful biocatalyst reactions, allowing you to tap deeper into your existing bank. From no-till to full-till, Extract is designed to help you tap the potential of your fields this year. Contact your Nutrient Ag Solutions crop consultant today to learn how Extract can work for you too.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
God, I envy how mindless your job is.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm sneaky but right. AM 1400 KVFD. You can always join the program by calling 515-955-1400. Joining us now is Jim Kirsten. How are you, Jim?
Real good, thank you.
Okay, you must still be on a cell phone somewhere. It's you sound far, far away.
Well, I'm actually in Des Moines in a parking lot at the Iowa Economic Development Authority.
Okay, well, what's going on in Des Moines today?
Well, we're working on some prison industry projects. You know, we have that Second Chance Pell Grant in Fort Dodge at the prison, where we use Pell Grants to pay for the training. And so we're looking at maybe some helping build affordable houses for rural Iowa in our carpentry program at the prison, because we have the money to pay for it. And anyway, so we're just trying to be creative to help solve one of Iowa's problems. Well, two, labor, training these guys, and secondly, finding affordable houses.
So this has to do with the prison then?
Well, yeah, because we have we have a corrections education program inside the Fort Dodge prison, where we are training prisoners in the carpentry field, welding, and logistics. And so what we're going to do is, if we can find and build additional training space in the Fort Dodge prison or adjacent to it, we could train several hundred people a year that are right now just sitting there idle. So the results are so far very good that the average GPA of our prison student is 3.5 versus our general student population GPA of 2.2. So these guys are focused and they really want to get a skill so they don't have, hopefully not come back to the prison.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
That would save us $30,000 a year or $33,000 a year. It costs taxpayers to keep them in jail. If we can skill them and then get them out and keep them out, that saves everybody, and they start paying taxes again.
Yeah, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Boy, that would be terrific. Have you? Today was the day that they were debating how judges are selected down in Des Moines. Have you heard anything on that?
Well, after I called you, they tabled it, and I don't know if they're going to bring it back up yet later today or tonight. But they're ready to. It's going to be a very contentious debate, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so you say it's not happening, or?
Well, they tabled it for a while. I don't know if it's tabled for the whole day, or they're working on some kind of an amendment to make it more passable. I don't know. I'm not directly involved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Again, if you have a question or comment, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. Is there anything else going on that directly affects the college?
Well, again, we're working with Senator Kreinbrink and our House counterparts. The governor recommended a $4.7 million general aid increase for community colleges. The House is recommending a $7 million. So we're working with Senator Kreinbrink to see what we can do in that range, because we've had significant cuts over the last 15 years, and we need to, if we want to train workers, we got to have operating revenue to help do that, and we can't just keep raising tuition.
Yeah, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So are you staying in Des Moines tonight?
Yep.
Okay. All right. What's going on tomorrow that you got to be there for?
We're going to have some additional meetings with the appropriators, and then also this workforce hold general Future Ready Iowa.
Okay. And explain Future Ready Iowa just briefly.
Oh, pardon?
Can you explain Future Ready Iowa just briefly?
Yeah, it's the governor's workforce proposal to help provide scholarships. The main component is provide scholarships and incentives to get students and their families to understand the value in these good career technical jobs. So if they agree to get into an education pathway that gets them a skill in welding or computer technology or the basic, very high demand jobs, then they'll get this scholarship incentive from the state of Iowa. So it's again, the community colleges will play a big role because we'll probably train probably 80 or 90% of those students. So it's really good, but we want to make sure it's done in a practical and workable way. So again, I'm helping facilitate discussions on behalf of the community colleges.
Okay. All right. So please keep us apprised of what's going on in Des Moines as we go along. And I do thank you for calling in.
Yeah, I'm glad and if you want, we could have maybe the governor come in and we've talked about having other people in. She could explain directly what she's trying to do with Future Ready Iowa.
I would love that to happen, and I would love to talk with Senator Ernst.
I called her staffer this morning and left a message that I'm going to be on your show, and I said, "Can you give me an answer?" And I've not heard back from him yet.
Okay. Well, I got to get hold of Chuck Grassley too. Senator Grassley was on this program every month. I must have taken vacation, and we got out of the habit of having Senator Grassley on, but he's pretty good about being on the air, and his people at his office, his media people, are pretty good to work with. So I expect to have Senator Grassley on again soon.
Good. Well, if I can do anything else, let me know.
Thank you, Jim. Jim Kirsten's been our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFD.
An expert in efficiency says farmers can use lean principles already used by many other industries to identify waste and save money. Hello, I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. Ellen Bontai says wasted motions, inefficient machine use, and unnecessary labor costs add up. We'll hear from Bontais next on Managing for Profit.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke.
145 over 92, and then I had a heart attack.
150 over 90, and I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure sounds like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a heart attack or stroke are far from silent. Get back on your treatment plan or talk with your doctor to create a plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Everything's changed.
Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
The lean techniques practiced by many industries can help a farmer's bottom line. Ellen Bontais with AIS tells Brownfield farmers can save money by looking at moving feed and materials on the farm in much the same way materials are moved in the mining industry.
The moving material, the processing, the ending up of a commodity that gets added to a value-added product. These guys are people that do the things that we think are extra. They make a living moving material. And to us, that seems like the thing that has to happen just to get it out of the way. So what can we learn from the people that make a living doing what we do on the farm every day?
Bontai says it doesn't matter if the farmer's moving feed, bedding, or something else. They can be more profitable by looking at the size, placement, and operating costs of those machines.
If you take a look at a 3-yard wheel loader, which is a very common loader size that you see on a farm, there's an expense to just having that equipment on the farm, but when you think about truck placement, where am I going to place the mixer or the mixing truck to the pile? There's a cost of a considerable cost to moving that machine even 100 feet. So we take the operating costs of a loader, say $55, $56 an hour for a loader that size, and the mileage that we put on a loader,